WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and that I don't know, the bank, I don't know what they call it at this point. They're not a sponsor, so I'm not talking about them. Ed Frankovic is here. He is here to talk about all things Game 3. And, you know, as much as they made it look easy down in Tampa in Games 1 and 2, certainly Game 2 was not easy. They were losing. In Game 3, it was more a case of they sort of fell and they couldn't get up, and there was bad ice, there were slow legs, and more than anything, very motivated goaltender on the other side and a very motivated team on the other side that I don't want to say championship medal because those guys have a long way to go as well, but certainly they were not going to go down sleeping in Game 3 on Tuesday night. Tampa Bay played a great game on Tuesday.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Ness. They definitely wanted the game more. They won the loose puck battles, and as John Cooper said after the game, the difference between the Lightning in Games 1 and 2 and Games 3 was they checked. They were on the Capitals. They didn't give the Capitals the space they had in the first two games where the Capitals were really able to use their legs and get around the Tampa defensemen. And it was definitely a big struggle. The Capitals did have a halfway decent first period for a little while, and then they got in penalty trouble. You can't give that Lightning power play opportunities right now. They score on the first two. The Capitals had the game's first power play when Strawman kind of an ugly hit on Tom Wilson from behind. If Tom Wilson makes that hit, he's suspended. So we'll see what the league has to say on that. But you can see the fans at the arena were really putting out a positive vibe. I felt like the vibe was in there, that the fans were ready to go, but the Capitals weren't, and Tampa was. And they definitely looked slow. I don't know if the John Bon Jovi ice caused the Capitals problems, but they just didn't look good at all. It was Tampa's game right from the get-go.
Yeah, it was disheartening to say the least, and I'm sure disheartening for Barry Trotz and for the Caps organization that this opportunity was squandered, and that's really been the story over all the years of the playoffs, is this would have been a nice night to sort of put one more nail in the coffin and wrap things up. Instead, they're certainly going back to Tampa on Saturday night. By the way, for those Caps fans looking for a place to commiserate and watch Game 5 on Saturday night after the Preakness, we will be at Michael's Cafe in Timonium watching Game 5, so I can now put together a viewing party for said Game 5 that, quite frankly, I wish weren't happening. Not out of the realm of the possibility that the Caps are going to rebound here in Game 4. Certainly within their the purview for them to do that. Where's Backstrom in all this? I would think we will see him on Thursday night, right?
You have to hope that he can come back now because they certainly need him. They're able to win 3 games in a row without him, but you can't keep going without your number one center this long. But the concern has to be, can he shoot the puck? There's been video of him practicing. He's been passing. He's been doing some shooting, but he's not going to be able to take face-offs. It's his top hand. It's his right hand. So it's all comfort level for him. But I got to think that he wants to get in there, and hopefully he can play. But as we talked about after Game 2, the Lightning know what it is. They're going to try and go after it. They don't want a Nick Backstrom, a healthy Nick Backstrom against him, and he won't be healthy. But the Capitals need him. Their power play certainly did not look good at all in Game 3 after clicking fairly well. Eller up there did a good job, but they really need Backstrom back. But again, how effective is he going to be with his shot? That's the big concern for me with Backstrom. The biggest thing, though, is just the compete level. I didn't think the Capitals were competing well in Game 3, where Tampa was winning all the loose puck battles. It seemed like they wanted it more. The case in point is the fourth goal, Braden Point's goal. It's a face-off. The Capitals lose a face-off. That's another thing they have to get better at. They lost. They were 36 losses to 20 the face-offs. But Point goes to the front of the net, and Tampa wins a 2-on-2 battle, and hope he never sees the shot. And it's those little battles that win hockey games, and Tampa won the large majority of those on Tuesday night. All
right, it's 2-1 now, and the loss was a 4-2 loss. They did score a goal later in the game. For Vasilevsky and for the kind of goalie he is, I mean, he wants to get his name stripped around the Stanley Chalice as well a couple weeks from now. He was the star of the game, and I will tip the cap to a guy that led the league in points. They are the number one seed in this on this side of the bracket, and he's a big part of that. And I expected him before the series began to steal a game.
He was absolutely fantastic, and you can go down the line on all of Tampa's stars in Game 3.
Yeah, Hedman, Kucherov, they all showed up, right?
Yeah, Stamkos has got 3 straight. I mean, you just can't let Stamkos get that shot off. He's almost as dead. He's maybe even more deadly than Ovi right now. Ovi couldn't hit the net in Game 3, but Stamkos, Kucherov was fantastic. I mean, he could have scored more goals. Hope he made a couple big saves on him. Vasilevsky was dialed in. There were a couple tips that he made big saves on, but the Capitals didn't get enough jam to the front of the net on him, and that's where they scored a lot of their goals. But Victor Hedman had a really big game for Tampa on the back end. I think that's where you have to get at Tampa. I think you have to get at their defense with McDonough and Girardi and Coburn. Coburn didn't play a whole lot. Those are the guys that you got to beat on the back end because they're not really fast. And that's where the Varanas, the Burakovskis, Kuznetsov, Eller, these guys got to use their speed and take the puck deep on those guys and then cycle them low. And the Capitals just did not do that in Game 3, where they'd done a lot more of that in Games 1 and 2 and really opened up the ice. So the first goal is going to be very key on Thursday night. And again, they have to get some traffic on Vasilevsky because he certainly played the best game of his series. And that's the first time Holtby's been dented for 4 goals in these playoffs. And he didn't play bad at all. I don't think you can fault him on any of those goals. He made a bunch of big saves. Tampa only had 28 shots, but there were a lot of quality shots. Tampa was getting to the better places on the ice than the Capitals, which was a complete reverse of the first 2 games.
You talk about the bad ice and how it affects the skating, how it affects pucks going over, and that doesn't help the Lightning either, who prefer to be crisp, right, and who prefer to be fast. But certainly, the Caps were not the beneficiary of that on Tuesday night. I thought at some point, and I know we had talked about how bad the ice was early in the game. I mean, you saw in the first 5 minutes of the game that it was chippy out there because when it's not a sheet of glass to start with, I'm looking for the steam to be coming off it like the old Boston Garden. Hell, we had Phil Esposito up in the press box. I think he was familiar with that. But you would have thought at some point, I thought, well, maybe the Caps will be the lucky ones that, the Lightning have a breakaway and the puck goes off the guy's stick or something like that, or the puck goes over a stick. It didn't work out for good luck for the Caps. There were a couple of times I think it was bad luck, especially in the first period when they had some opportunities and couldn't get the puck settled down, especially in the zone. I mean, Ovechkin fanned on one that just kind of went over his stick. But all that being said, Lars Eller was on fire in Game 2. Obviously, he's been on fire throughout the playoffs. Closing hand on puck, slashing, cross-checking. He spent 6 minutes in the box. The power play they have is so extraordinary that I think it's made the Capitals a little bit more tentative. You talked about a heavier game being played by the Lightning in Game 3. I don't know that the Caps adjusted well to that. And for that, the retaliatory stuff, the chippy stuff, we're behind 4-1 and we're going to go back to the box in the third period and get involved in that nonsense. The penalty box is the absolute death of the Capitals in this series. If they spend more time in the box the next 2 or 3 games, we're going to be back here for Game 6. We're going to be back there for Game 7. They have to stay out of the box.
There's no doubt about it. And I can't argue with any of those calls against the Capitals last night. They were, maybe the slash on Eller, but still, he did slash the guy. But the closing the hand on the puck, that was just a terrible play. I don't know what Lars was doing there. You bat that puck to the corner. It's right in front of your own net, and especially early in the second period there where, the first period, the Capitals were still kind of in the game in the first period, but that second goal really took some starch out of them, and then, a minute and a half later, Hedman scores when Niskanen goes for a big hit. I don't know why Niskanen's chasing the guy on the boards there going for the big hit. You stay structured and just stay back, and they don't get Hedman wide open in the slot. So the Capitals just made a lot of mental mistakes. The penalties were the result of laziness and not thinking. I can't argue with any of them. The Holtby trip was bad. The Holtby trip comes after the Bolts had the puck in the zone for at least seemed like a minute. Now, you and I were both sitting there like they need a whistle, they need something, and they just were getting outworked. And I'm not sure if it was the ice or because the thing with the bad ice, when you get bad ice, and it does affect both teams, but it seemed to really impact the Capitals more because they had a couple pucks bounce over their sticks early, and they seemed to lose their confidence. And in a game where the puck is bouncing weird, the team that's working harder is going to win the battles, and that's exactly what happened in Game 3. Tampa was all over them. They were determined. They're an experienced team. They were unwilling to go down 0-3, and the Capitals had a golden opportunity. And the Capitals once again at home can't get the job done. They haven't beaten Tampa ever in a playoff game at home, and that's a concern. And I don't understand why the Capitals seem to have such trouble at home. They're playing so well on the road. They get it home, and it's just like they're a different team. And it just was not the same effort, not the same energy. The energy was not there at all.
Yeah, the home building, right? I just, there's something about how heavy it gets for them and for the organization. Now, I will say, in previous years when you fall behind 4-1, 3-1, whatever that number is, 2-0, boy, the crowd, you sense the nervousness, you sense the energy. I don't want to say mock cheering, but I have heard that during the playoffs for the Capitals in previous years. I thought the crowd on Tuesday, maybe it speaks to the price of the tickets, which was hovering around $200 to get in, the amount of energy outside the building. It really did feel like a very, very hardcore group of the fan base in there. There were no Tampa Lightning jerseys, and the crowd did respond. I mean, the crowd did not get down on them and turn it into a road game or at least a nervous home game. It never felt that way to me. The crowd got back up and was trying to unleash the fury, and look, they scored a goal with a couple minutes left to go in the game and had an opportunity. They clanked some posts. It wasn't as though they were overwhelmed in losing at one point 4-1, but it was 4-2. They were certainly outplayed, but there was still some good fortune that could have come their way, and I didn't think the fan group that was there was very, very supportive. I tip my cap to them. There was a lot of energy in the building.
I totally agree, Ness. I thought the fans were fantastic, and there was a point there, even when it went after it went 3-0, Conley scores that goal, and the Capitals, the fans really came to life. They really brought the Capitals energy, and the Capitals got a lot of chances. They had a good chance on the delayed penalty call. Actually had the better chance of the delayed penalty call than they did in the power play. And once again, it was the power play that kind of took the life out of the building again. The Capitals' power play was really bad. They really have to fix that. It's a little stale right now. Not enough traffic and not enough passes. But
they're not shooting either. They're not shooting the puck the way they were in Game 1 or 2 with sort of that reckless abandon. I mean, we saw Wilson go into the corner and get crashed and still get a shot on goal. And a pretty good shot, kind of a sneaky shot. We need more of that. I mean, you need to throw the puck on him and hope that chippy ice helps you out a little bit in some way, right?
Yeah, throw the puck on him, get him moving, and get guys going to the net. Rebound goals. There was not enough of that. Look at the goal Eller scored in Game 2, right in front of the net there. And then they get the power play goal from Kuznetsov. Guys going to the net. You got to go to the net. The Bolts, I'll give them a lot of credit. They did a good job of walling off the front of the net. Trotty's going to have to make some adjustments because Tampa certainly made some adjustments in the way they were playing defense. But the biggest thing was their effort. Tampa's effort was there, and the Capitals just didn't match it. And that's hockey in a nutshell. You've got to be ready to play. You've got to come out with some jam. I felt like if the Capitals could have got the first goal, might have gone differently. But once Tampa got that lead, this game was really never close. It's not like when the Capitals played Columbus in that first round, and the Capitals were down 2-0, and they pulled out that third game in overtime, and Columbus is thinking, "Wow, we were this close to going up 3-0." The Capitals were never really close to going up 3-0. They never really had a sniff of winning that game on Tuesday night. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah, they were not in the game from the beginning, and even though the fans sort of tried to will them back, Holtby, a loser in this effort, and I thought after the third goal, it's not that I would have pulled him or thought about that. During the regular season, he might have gotten an axe after the third goal. Maybe, perhaps. Not at this point. Barry's not going down that road, right? I mean, it's Holtby's cup to win or lose at this point.
Yeah, there's no way. You look at the goals they scored. Stamkos on the power play, beautiful shot. Second goal, power play again. Kucherov, beautiful shot because they're getting that pass going across the box. And that's the pass that was hurting them against Columbus in the first round that they fixed. They need to find a way to fix that here. I'd rather see the shots coming from up high and just wall them off. I'd rather have Hedman shooting than have Stamkos or Kucherov from the side. So they need to fix that. But Holtby, I don't think you can fault them on any of the goals. The third goal, Hedman has a wide open net because Niskanen chases the corner and the Capitals are on the one side. Holtby's there looking, Kucherov's wide open in the slot, but Hedman's coming down the other side of the slot. So Holtby's got no chance there. Fourth goal, just a scrum in front that he doesn't see. So I don't think you can go, you could have put Grubauer in, especially as poorly as he played with that glove hand in the first couple games. And it wasn't Holtby. It was the team in front of them. They were just bad on Game 3. They need to be a lot better. They need to be a lot harder on the puck. and they need to see more shots, more guys going to the net.
Ed Frankovic and I will be ice side on the roof down in D.C. on Thursday night for Game 4. Full coverage out at WNST.net. Reminder, Game 5, now that there is a Game 5 on Saturday night, I am not going to Tampa. I'll be at that little horse race they're running out at Pimlico and Old Hilltop on Saturday afternoon as Justify tries to justify the Triple Crown. Certainly tons of stuff around here out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault. All of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at Cole Roofing. Don't let a goof on your roof. They are the sponsor of our Thursday Be More Positive community and charity series, as well as Royal Farms. Real fresh, real fast. Make sure you're downloading that app and using that when you're pumping your gas. You'll get your points, get your fried chicken, get your Western fries free of charge as well. There's one right around the corner from you. Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. Reminder, the Baltimore Brigade play next Friday night at the Royal Farms Arena in downtown Baltimore. Come see Randy Hippert sling it around against the Philadelphia Soul. Ron Jaworski will be joining us next week to hopefully talk about the Washington Capitals going to the Stanley Cup Finals. We'll see. But that's next Friday night, the Baltimore Brigade down at the Royal Farms Arena. Ed Frankovic is our guest. On Saturday night, we will be at Michael's Cafe in Timonium watching all things Game 5 as the Caps go back down to Tampa. I will not have seats with pretty cheerleaders, Ed. We will, however, have split-level soup, some fine prime steaks and delicious crab cakes, and maybe even a little Bob Baffert victory party out at Michael's Cafe. That all happens on Saturday night. The face-off time a little earlier on Saturday night after the Preakness, 7:15, 7:30 in that range down in Tampa. So we hope to see you in Timonium for that. Ed, last thought on for you. I mean, we've mentioned Ovechkin, we've mentioned the star players and whatnot. You know, there was a little bit of a disappearing act all the way around for the team on Tuesday night that it wasn't any one guy. Certainly, you can make an excuse for Holtby. I didn't like the third goal myself. I didn't like the fourth goal myself. And I didn't like the bobbling of Holtby. I didn't like the checking. I didn't like the box. A lot of things I didn't like. I don't know who I could say played a good game for the Capitals on Tuesday night, but the wake-up call is certainly there. And I even think for the bottom lines, the DSP line and Connolly to have scored a goal, I expect more across all of their lines and certainly expect them to stay out of the box Thursday night at home.
Yeah, I didn't think anybody was very good in Game 3, and I thought even though Ovechkin had a lot of shots, he was missing the net a lot, and he didn't have his legs going. He wasn't skating like he needs to skate. He got a lot of shots, but he's got to get his legs moving. He's got to get more involved in the game. A lot of guys did. I mean, they just weren't moving their legs. It was almost like they were just waiting for something to happen. And Tampa went out and they took the game. And Game 4 is going to have to be a lot different. Trotsy's going to have to get these guys going. Maybe we see number 19 back in the lineup and get a little spark. That certainly, I think, would help.
Well, that's the story, right? The story for Thursday is Backstrom playing, and how do we get to 3-1 and have 3 chances to close this thing out? Because that place is going to be a hellhole down there on Saturday night no matter what at this point, and especially if they go back 2-2. If they go back 2-2, all of a sudden my flights to Winnipeg are on hold, bro,
Yeah, you can throw that stuff out the window if the Capitals. I think the Capitals have to find a way to win Game 4. They can't lose another game on home ice to Tampa. They have to end this curse of the Lightning winning in D.C. That needs to stop. I think it's 0-6. The Capitals are at home. The Capitals are 3-4 in the playoffs at home. I mean, there's no excuse for that. They have to change whatever they're doing at home and come out with more energy and just be more focused and play a smarter game. I felt like they got a little fancy. We see Oshie with a little drop pass inside the blue line that turns over and a couple little cross-ice stuff. They got to get back to just simple hockey, north-south. Put it behind the Tampa D. That Tampa D is not that fast. I know Hedman's fast, but there's other guys out there that are beatable, and Coburn and McDonough and Girardi. Get it behind them and make them have to defend, and that's what the Capitals did not do in Game 3 at all.
He is Ed Frankovic out on Twitter as well as Ed at WNST.net. Together we will be on the roof. He will be shouting all sorts of things at the Capitals from his roofside seat. It is, you're entertaining unto yourself. You know what I mean? Like if you and I did play-by-play, the people would love to hear your in-game snippets of frustration. So they would. They would love to see that, as well as me in my red suit up there. But at least it wasn't freezing on the roof, and the coffee was strong. And at some point, we're going to play all night, right? At some point, there's going to be a triple-dipple overtime. But these games have not been nearly as competitive as some of these other nail-biters. But I'm sure we're in for one of these late nights before the week's over, bro.
Yeah, both teams, I think, will bring a Game 4, and then Game 4 could be your overtime game, and that's where a bounce has to happen. But the Capitals have to go out and they have to make that bounce happen, and they can't sit back. They have to really get on that, get on that defense, and once again, like you said, stay out of the box. Don't take these bad penalties. And it just seems like their minds weren't there. It was almost like they thought that they were going to automatically gift it 3-0, and it really had the Capitals game really had a stench to it on Tuesday night. It just did not look like anything like the first two games.
Well, it didn't look like a closeout game. It certainly felt that way from the crowd perspective, but from the minute the puck was dropped, a dominating effort by the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 3. We'll check in with Ed again on Friday morning and see if we can get a better result. You can find me out on the Buy at Toyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. No static at all, just like Steely Dan, who's playing the Model Lyric on October 11th. I want to thank John and Nicoletta and Rudy and everybody over at the Model Lyric for bringing Steely Dan in for my 50th birthday. I appreciate that. Let me tell you that. Donald Fagen in town for that. That is October 11th. Also going to have David Ragsdale, the violinist from the band Kansas, on the program this week to get ready for their show in November. So we're getting way out in advance on that. If you have a charity or local group that you'd love to hear on the radio or have me tell their story or have them tell their story to me, throw me an email, nasty@WNST.net. It's all courtesy of our friends at Howard Bank, as well as our friends at Cole Roofing, presenting our Be More Positive charity and community series. You'll be hearing more of those interviews in and about and scattered throughout our WNST content. You won't be hearing anything about Tuesday night's Oriole game because there was no Tuesday night Oriole game, but Orioles trying to run between the raindrops here on the way to Fenway Park this weekend. We'll be monitoring all of that, as well as the Joe Flacco, Lamar Jackson stuff, as well as LeBron maybe going out in the NBA. We got plenty happening, including a big race over at Old Hilltop. You can hear all of our horse racing coverage, and it has been extraordinary. Added the BuyAToyota.com audio vault. I know a lot of you put the radio on this week, and you're like, wow, man, who's doing the horse racing coverage around there better than WNST? Well, the bottom line is nobody. Nobody's got what we got going on around here at WNST. Randy Moss, Dave Sheinin, Ray Pollock, Stan Salter, Chris McCarron, Mike Gathigan, Marty McGee, Dick Girardi, Donna Brothers, Lafitte Pinkai III, John Eisenberg talks some horse racing and some Joe Flacco with me, and Bob Baffert, all in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault if you want to know what's going on at Preakness on Saturday, and we're hoping that the weather holds up a little bit better. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I am on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNS TV channel. Drop the puck for Game 4. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Tassa Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.